Welcome, everybody, to Circle Back to You on this edition of the NFL Week 8 with my man, Asif Ali. How you doing, brother?
Doing great, baby. Niners, hey, feels great, baby.
Yes,
AKA Jimmy
sir.
G's, slogan.
Awesome, man. Man,
Yeah.
before we get into weeks 6, 7, and 8, man, my Morehouse brother, Spike Lee,
Hmm.
is doing a documentary on Colin Kaepernick. In his words, from his perspective, man, this brother is up at 4:30 every morning training, not to get ready, to stay ready for the next opportunity. But will the NFL give him another chance?
Man, you hit me with that. We're laying on thick. And, for anyone who's not following me or following the DDOG podcast, on Twitter or on LinkedIn or even IG, right? I mean, just for everyone's edification, and we're going to have two of Kaepernick's teammates from that 2012 Super Bowl team on the show this Saturday with starting off with Anthony Booby Dixon, the starting fullback from that team, and then in 2 weeks from Tuesday with Terrell Brown, the starting cornerback from that 2012 Super Bowl team. That was Kaepernick's first kind of season, kind of getting his legs wet. So, and I mean, let's just talk about. I mean, obviously, what he did with that team. Leading the Niners to an NFC Championship for the first NFC Championship win over your Falcons. I'm my bad, but
Right. I
over your
mean,
Falcons.
it's
Over
all
your
good.
Falcons. Yeah, it's all good, right? I mean, over your Falcons. In the first to earn a Super Bowl berth first time in 18 years. It's just and it's funny. I've been at Niners. I've been attending Niners games regularly since 2015. So every single season, I've been attending Niners games. I saw Kaepernick when he played against Seahawks, in 2015. Saw him again when he was on the bench. Kind of rotating with Gabber in 2016 against Cardinals. That was last season in the league, which is basically around the time when he also started kneeling for the anthem protest. Um, and essentially from there, then he's been ousted, and now he's basically, focusing on social issues, more power to him. I mean, ultimately though, it seems like he's really hungry as of late. It seems like he's really hungry for the opportunity, to get back to the NFL. I think it's going to come down to whether or not a team is invested enough, to really take on Kaepernick. If they view his athletic ability, good as still elite, and the reason why I'm saying that is because he is good enough to play in the NFL as a backup. I mean, Spike Lee's doing the documentary. I watch Colin Black and White. I've discussed it with guests on my show who play in the NFL, such as LaVon Kirkland and many others. So it's not a mystery that Kaepernick, is so is it could. I mean, we can make the deduction that he's being unfairly, excluded, from many different teams, basically being blackballed, right, for his political stance, which the NFL has basically rescinded and apologized for. But for some reason, Kaepernick still hasn't been able to get an opportunity, right, in the NFL.
Right.
So it's the reason I'm saying he has to be perfect is because in order for a team to take him on, it's not necessarily a stigma associated with them, but because of the fact that they have to sell it to their fan base who may or may not agree with Kaepernick's political affiliations, right? They need to have him be kind of basically the 2012 version of himself 10 years ago to really say, okay, yeah, no, he's worth the investment. Same issue with Tim Tebow. Same issue with many others. Who have the kind of polarizing figures. I mean, I'm not really getting into where I stand on the issue, but it's one of those problems. Where basically a player can basically be have talents and tools to play in the NFL. But because the fact that some teams are just not invested and they're thinking about their fan base, it really makes it difficult for that player to kind of get noticed and get an opportunity until they prove that they're still elite. And Kaepernick's ceiling at this point is a backup, and he's better than arguably maybe 15 or 14 or 15 quarterbacks, in my opinion, who are backing up, and or basically starting in the NFL. But because of the fact that there's that stigma associated with the name Kaepernick, I think a lot of owners are hesitant for that reason. So it's a sad situation for him ultimately because he does seem like he wants to play, and more power to him. I mean, it's crazy that you'd want to play after 5 years of being out of the league, but ultimately, hey man, I mean, hopefully he gets a shot somewhere. Tom Brady was on record. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Tom Brady was on record a few years ago saying Kaepernick will get an opportunity in the NFL. We'll see. So
Interesting topic, man. We will definitely see what happens.
oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, man. So let's get into the 49ers, bro.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about it. So let's talk about the Niners. All right, last couple of weeks, up and down like a seesaw. Your Falcons, thank you. Your leading NFC South Falcons, first place NFC South Falcons had to smash us and dash us 28-14 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Oh my God. And I mean, obviously, congratulations, obviously, to your team to being first place in the NFC South. It must be an exciting time to be a Falcons fan.
Oh yeah,
Oh
definitely.
my God, yeah. And then obviously we followed that up by getting blown out by Kansas City. Even worse in worse fashion on our home turf. 2044-23.
Right.
Just a complete collapse of both sides of the ball. Defense couldn't stop anything, and then ultimately, this past weekend, we got to see how they came to form against the Rams. Obviously, the team is getting healthy at the right. Well, the team is still banged up, but now after the bye, they're going to have a lot of key players, key buys back, right? So, obviously when we last came on here, the Niners are riding high. They're, I believe, was it 3-2, right? And then basically then they dropped to 3-4. Now they're 4-4. Second place in the NFC South, behind the Seahawks, who your Falcons also beat. So think about this. Your Falcons have beaten the Seattle Seahawks, who are leading the NFC South. They also beat the 49ers. I mean, your Falcons are pretty much the most unexpected surprise of the NFL season so far.
Yeah, and you know what, man? The games that we've had though have not been easy.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean it's been dogfights. It's been dogfights every single game. Going to Seattle, it's been a dogfight against Super Bowl champion Rams. You almost beat them, by the way, in their own house. It was a dogfight against the Niners. Smashed them, but still a dogfight. So I mean, definitely. I mean, you guys are built for these battles.
Right. And I think we should have beat the Buccaneers too, man.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, the Grady Jarrett. Can we talk about that for a second?
Let's get into it. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, come on now. What was he? He wrapped him up, going to the ground. He breaks Brady's fall with his body when he's hitting the turf, rolling to protect the quarterback. He's literally doing Brady a favor by breaking his fall with his own body, and then he basically hits the turf. And then the ref basically throws a flag, and I'm just sitting there like, "What's the flag for?" And then it's like, "What the hell? The roughing the passer? Like, what game was the ref watching?"
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
Shannon Sharp went on it was Twitter right after that play. He was saying like, the ref, you got to apologize for that bull jive. It was bull jive, right? I mean, Shannon Sharp's from Georgia too, so I mean, I don't. It's tough because that would have definitely sealed the game. Not necessarily sealed the game. It would have given the Falcons, another possession. I think they would have tied it. It would have gone overtime. It would have favored the Falcons to win in overtime. That's my opinion. What I mean? Everyone can disagree. I don't care who's listening. I'll say it on my podcast too. Falcons would have won that game if otherwise. So it's just I don't even understand kind of how that materialized. And I think, and it's funny, because the following week we saw Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs against the Las Vegas Raiders, and Chris Jones basically he scored a sack on Derek Carr, and he's falling. He tries to break his fall with his arm and so basically the roughing the pass rule is that you can't exert your body weight when going to the ground on the quarterback, because that's why a lot of quarterbacks suffer from so many career-ending injuries, because obviously a 300-pound defensive lineman isn't it's not gonna be pretty for a 300-pound defensive lineman to body slam a 220-pound quarterback, right? But ultimately, kind of back to the point, I mean, he was breaking his fall with his arm, and so that means that he wasn't exerting any body weight on Derek Carr, right? And then essentially, then after the game, he basically said, when they asked him the question, kind of, what did you think about the call? He said, okay, he's like, I understand the league is trying to make the game safer for quarterbacks. Well, the next level of that is to review these roughing the passer calls in the booth, just like they review pass interference calls, just like they review scoring plays, just like they review first downs. All these plays are reviewable. Roughing the passer as a penalty should also be reviewable and challengeable, or be able to be challenged by opposing coaches. So
yeah, that's a great point. But man, another thing about it, man, do you think it was preferential treatment for Brady?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because if you think about it, Brady being 45 years old, I mean, the league has something invested in him playing, and and we can talk about him now. He's getting divorced, right? Because of the fact that he loves football so damn much. I mean, he basically told his wife said, pick me or pick football, and he made his choice. So, I mean, it's I mean, I don't mean to laugh at that, but it is what it is, I mean, and so. I mean, the point is, with Tom Brady and obviously, being who he is, and it's funny because I was watching, the 49ers, the old kind of school games of Joe Montana, Steve Young, the 90s football, 80s football, right? And then the quarterbacks didn't get any preferential treatment. It doesn't matter if you're Joe Montana, it doesn't matter if you're anyone, I mean, you basically have to, you have to play through it, you know what I mean? And I think, with the league trying to prioritize player safety, around, I want to say 2008, 2009, when the concussions kind of, came to light with Dr. Beno Omalo's findings, that's when we got to see kind of, the shift in the officiating, right? Basically, everything was designed to protect the passer, and obviously Brady was on the top of that list because he was obviously the golden boy. He earned it, but he was the golden boy, right? He
Right.
basically was like the face of the league, right? So they have to basically, and do what they can to protect their investments. And so obviously the quarterbacks are the star of the league. They make the most money. I get it, you know what I mean? But I also kind of feel like it's really just it's pathetic because it's like, are we really watching football anymore? If people do that in arena, you can watch Terrell Owens at 49 years old playing arena football right now, and he's getting slammed against a barricade and going head over, and then he's just getting back up and running back to the line scrimmage. So I mean, it's and and me personally, obviously, like, I can sympathize with defensive players, from the special teams perspective, because when you're running down the field and you're trying to tackle someone and you're going full speed, it's really difficult to slow yourself down, right? Because if you're going full speed and you're going like this, right, or if you're going like this, because you're trying to, not necessarily lead with your helmet, but you're trying to, obviously, make a tackle with your shoulder, trying to go up through the pack, right, and make sure that you can, force the opposing player down. It's a difficult type of situation. And the fact that Brady basically gets these calls, I mean, it's not to be unexpected, right? Because of, who he is and his age in the league. But essentially, I mean, we can see in the NBA too, like Michael Jordan, I mean, like, Tim Donaghy was talking about it. It's like,
Yeah.
like Phil Jackson, he called the foul on Phil on Mike, and then Phil basically, hey, you're not supposed to call that foul, and then Phil said that's a foul, and we put a call on time, and he said, yeah, but you're not supposed to call on him, 23, and so it is what it is. Obviously the marquee kind of goats of each sport are going to get the preferential calls, and it's sad to say the least for anyone trying to make a play, right? But you can see the Buccaneers, they're basically their season's dwindling anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So
Yeah, I
what I
mean,
mean?
when it all comes down to it, I'm not mad. I mean, look where they are in
Yeah.
our division. It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, because if you look at the Bucks, I mean, they're really just struggling at this point. I mean, because I mean, I think the offensive line issues are pretty key, right? You can see it's glaring. The fact that Brady, I mean, I'm not saying he's lost his touch; he can still throw deep, but the offense is not what he used to be. I don't know why. I mean, I think Ronald Jones. I mean, they're missing Ronald Jones. Obviously, on Kansas City, you see the difference with Ronald Jones, Juju Smith-Schuster. Kansas City hasn't lost a beat, and I mean, credit to Patrick Mahomes and obviously Andy Reid as an offensive coordinator and a play caller, right? The most brilliant mind offensive history. Without Bruce Arians there, you basically have Todd Bowles, who's a defensive minded coach. The offense on the Bucks are struggling. Outside of Mike Evans, Chris Godwin's coming off an injury, right? And then you lost Rob Gronkowski. You do have Kyle Rudolph there, but he hasn't really been he hasn't been integrating the offense that effectively, right? So it really, and Brady obviously at this stage of his career, right, he needs to have as much time as possible and have a solid run game to rely on to be effective, like Aaron Rodgers of Green Bay and many other quarterbacks, who are in the twilight years. But essentially, you see what's happening without that. He basically is forced to make, fast decisions that he would have to make maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And he doesn't have the weapons to go to make that happen, for lack of a better term. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Let's talk about the Falcons for a second, man.
Yes, sir. Let's go back to it.
Did you see that game yesterday?
Oh, I did see that game yesterday. It was a great
Okay.
win.
Yeah, great win, but man, shame on the Panthers, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, they had multiple opportunities to win. First of all, they should have won the game right before they got called for that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the two missed field goals, man.
Yeah.
All right, so shout out to my man Mike Hollis, one of the greatest kickers that ever lived. He said that, the only way that you miss a kick like that is if you're constantly thinking, okay, I don't want to miss this kick.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen? You're going to miss it.
You missed the game. Yeah.
So that happened twice, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think ultimately, I mean, those situations happen. I think Younghoe Koo is a great kicker. I just think that it's I mean, if you're thinking about it, you're going to miss it, and I was a little nervous when Robbie was missing a few earlier in the season, but he looks like he got back in form, these last couple weeks, and he hasn't been missing many kicks at all, if any. So I mean, you're right. I mean, and he's right. Actually, Mike's right. His point is valid that obviously, like, if a kicker is overthinking kind of how to make the kick, timing, and I've obviously played with kickers, and not obviously who play in the NFL, but they were they did have tryouts with some teams, right? And these kickers, right? I mean, they'd say, like, the precision and timing is everything, and some of them had superpower. I've had some on my podcast too, who basically, if you watch their clips on their highlights, right, playing at NAIA universities, I mean, these kids got some boot. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's a combination of timing, precision, and I think also just timing, precision, and just like you said, self awareness. Because I mean, if you're in the NFL, that means you can make the kicks. So
Right.
ultimately, like you said, if they're gimme kicks like yesterday, you want to make sure you make those, because that's like free throws in basketball. You don't want to miss those, right? So it is what it is, right? I think ultimately, the Falcons let the Panthers hang around the game. It's a divisional game, though, so divisional games are always going to be tough. So Panthers had an opportunity to win the game near the end. PJ Walker, it is what it is. Unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, and it is what it is. I thought PJ played a good game, all things considered. I mean, but I think the Falcons are just a better team. That's just it. I mean, they're a better team that proved it countless times this year against teams outside of the division. NFC South is not a good division in my opinion this year.
No, not
No,
at
it's
all.
not. And so, but you've seen how the Falcons have done against division leading teams such as the Seahawks and many others, right? So, I mean, that's pretty much, yeah. And I think I think they lost to the Bengals, right? Falcons, they lost to
Yeah,
the Bengals.
that's another game we should have won, man.
Exactly, right. And that's why I want to bring it up, because I remember they lost that game, but it was such a close game, right? They had an opportunity to win that game. So, and the Bengals are basically, duking it out for first place. They went tonight, they're tied with Baltimore for first place in the AFC North. So, I think or maybe Baltimore gets the lead because of the head-to-head matchup. But anyways, I mean, I think it's just one of those situations where, like you said, like what Mike said, right? I mean, the kicker is probably overthinking it, and then he misses it. We've seen so many famous misses throughout history in the NFL. It's better if you make the misses in the regular season as opposed to the playoffs, right? So it's better that way.
True, but man, two back to back, that's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what to say. I mean, Young Way definitely, get your head right, kid. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, man. So let's get into the rest of week 8.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually talking about it on my platform this morning when I did my podcast. Let me just pull up the scores and we can get through everything, because it was a great week for football. I mean, just all across the board, many great games. Some of the games were just blowouts, which is fine. You know what I mean? But some upsets too. So, I mean, that's why I like a little bit of mix.
Me
So,
too.
yeah, I think my fans team's taking a beating, but that's okay. Let's go into. This is not. There we go. Let's go fantasy. Did it sign me out? Yep, sign me out. Okay, I'm gonna have to go through and just go on NFL's website.
No problem.
Yeah, because it signed me out of my picks and pickup. I made my picks and then it signed me out, so I'm not sure why. But anyways,
Who's playing tonight?
tonight the Bengals and Browns.
That's going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, I'm tuning in for that one.
So what do you think about that game?
I'm going with the Bengals.
The
Even though the
Bengals?
Browns are at home, I'm picking him. I mean, Joe Burrow, he looks like he's getting to form at the right time. They start up 0-2. They've since gone 3-1. I think they're going to continue that streak. So
Yeah.
yeah. So let's go ahead and get started with the beginning of the season, or beginning of the week. Ravens at Bucks. Ravens beat the Bucks 27-22. Shout out Coach Dub. You listen to this? Coach Keith Williams, say SJCC. We out here, baby. Oh my God, it was a great game. Lamar Jackson, obviously, I mean, Lamar Jackson did Lamar Jackson. 27-38, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the ground, nine carries for 43 yards. Lamar Jackson's actually the 5th leading rusher in the NFL this
Is
season.
that right? Wow.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Because I mean, his arm talent is one thing, but I don't even know how he does it. So, on the ground, receiving likely for the Baltimore Ravens with leading receiver, 6 receptions, 77 yards and a touchdown. Defense played great. Let's go into the Bucks. Brady Boy was 26 of 44, 325 yards and a touchdown. Leonard Fournette had 9 carries for 24 yards and a touchdown. So Mike Evans, obviously 6 receptions, 123 yards, 20.5 yards per reception. Chris Godwin, 6 receptions for 75 yards. So the receivers played pretty decent. I just think it was just one of those games where, Ravens were just ready to win. They came in with a mentality. The defense basically dominated line scrimmage, and that you saw the outcome. So,
Yeah, I appreciate that win too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm sure you do, right? Obviously down there in the South,
Oh
So I
yeah,
mean, it's definitely good for the Falcons. I think this is the year the Falcons can definitely take the division, make some noise in the playoffs. So
I think so.
yeah, so let's move on to the Broncos Jaguars. That was London morning game. I didn't watch that game. 21-17. Russell Wilson, 18-30, 252 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, 18-31, 133 yards, one touchdown, two picks. So the defense of the Broncos showed up. I mean, the Broncos, I mean, they're kind of a mess still right now. They're 3-5. They beat the Niners, so I can't really talk about them like that. But the Niners are now kind of getting to form, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
I mean, again, get the wins out, get the losses out early, and start winning. Obviously down the stretch. So not about how you start, how you finish. So Broncos are still, I think, what, second or third place. Yeah, they're third place in the AFC West. So I mean, it is what it is. Next up, Dolphins Lions. Dolphins won 31-27. This game was great. Oh my god, I watched this game till the end. Tua Tagovailoa was 29-36 for 382 yards, three touchdowns, no picks. Jared Goff was 27-37, 320 yards, and one touchdown. So both quarterbacks had over 300 yards passing. It went down to last possession. The Lions weren't able to convert, and yeah, you basically saw now Mike McDonald. What's his last name? Mike. What's the coach of the Dolphins' name?
I'm
I
not
can't
sure.
forget. Yeah, Mike McDonald. No, Mike. I'll get it. Mike McDaniel. I'm so sorry. Mike, my bad. I'm an Irish fan. I love you. You do so great for us here. No, I love you. I mean, you're killing it. He's killing it. 5-3 in his first season as head coach. So, hey, Dolphins are a team to look out for in the AFC East. Now next up, Panthers at Falcons. Yes, sir. 37-34, right? PJ Walker, 1936, 317 yards, touchdown, a pick. Foreman on the ground, 118 yards, three touchdowns. So obviously the Panthers rushing attack and was pretty effective on the day. Marcus Mariota, obviously 20 of 28, 253 yards, three touchdowns, two picks. Huntley on the ground, 19 yards, 91 yards, rushing of 16 carries. Mariota also had 43 yards rushing, pretty remarkable. Kyle Pitts, Kyle Pitts did Kyle Pitts, right? 5 receptions, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Bird had 3 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. Algier had 3 receptions, 46 yards and a touchdown. Drake London at 31 yards. What I like about the Falcons is how Marcus spreads the ball, because how Mariota's spreading the ball.
Yeah.
Arthur Jones, like it's working. It's working. It's Arthur Smith or Arthur Jones. I think it's Smith. I'm not sure.
Smith.
But anyways, Smith, right? Yeah. So I mean, it's showing, and it's translating to wins. They're 4-4, just like the Niners, who lead the NFC South. And I'm liking how the defense is playing too. I'm really liking how the defense is playing. Walker, Evans, Graham, Jarrett, obviously, Oliver. There's a lot of playmakers on the defense side of the ball, the Falcons, who get after the ball.
Yeah, the only thing though is the secondary, bro. We beat up in the secondary. Hopefully we can make a turnaround on that side of the ball. Hopefully, man.
Hey man, you can't be talking about secondary. Niners get eaten alive by Kansas City last week, so it is what it is.
Same thing. Yeah,
same thing. So, but I mean, I'm liking how our secondary is looking now. As how we play against the Rams. I mean, I honestly think one of my buddies was telling me there's two great teams in the NFL right now. It's the Bills and the Chiefs. Everyone else is kind of second fiddle. You can agree or disagree with that. That's just kind of his take. I mean, I personally don't know if I agree with that necessarily, because you do have the Eagles who are 7-0. You do have, I think the Niners now with Christian McCaffrey, they look like a better team. I think if we play the Kansas City Chiefs again, I'm not saying that Eric Armstead and the players are going to get back, will make the difference. But I think if momentum's everything in football, right? If we're able to kind of get some win streak going down the stretch, second half of the season, then we can compete with maybe the Kansas Cities and the Buffaloes of the world. But also keep in mind the Buffalo Bills are the number one defense in the NFL right now. So it's pretty remarkable what they've been able to do on both sides of the ball.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Man, what do you think about the Eagles though, man? I mean, is there anybody that can beat them?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because people are talking about strength of schedule. Eagles have such a soft cupcake schedule, but I mean, they're nasty on both sides of the ball. I mean, I'm a big believer in Jalen Hurts, and I've been big on him since he was in Alabama. Then when he went to Oklahoma, he showed character, and I mean, that's just kind of why I've been so big on Jalen Hurts, because of who he is, as a leader and then just as a player. So, and actually, yeah, we'll get into that game in a bit. Let's just actually kind of run through the rest of the score. So Vikings over Cardinals, 34-26. Kyler Murray, 31-44, 326 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. And then obviously Captain Kirk, 24-36, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Dalvin Cook, 20 carries, 111 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, the Vikings obviously, they've won 5 straight. So, you're asking about the Eagles. I mean, you got to also think about the Vikings right now. I mean, that team is 6-1, leading the NFC North. I mean, they're looking very, very scary on both sides of the ball. So,
Yeah, the Vikings
we'll
are tough.
Oh yeah, no, Vikings are looking really good. So I mean, yeah, I think there are teams who can beat the Eagles. The Vikings, that's one team. I also
Okay.
think if the Niners get into form, then we can definitely stand a chance, But I digress. Moving right along, and the Eagles division, Cowboys beat the Bears 49-29. Justin Fields, he 17-23, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. On the ground, he had 60 yards and a touchdown. I mean, I really think that the Bears are a promising team. I think Trey Lance and Justin Fields kind of have like that same trajectory as a quarterback. They're limited in what they can do in the in the air, but what they can do on the ground with their feet is what makes them so dangerous, right? But I think the Cowboys defense, phenomenal. Obviously, Dak Prescott came back. He had 27, he had 250 yards, at 2 touchdowns and a pick. Tony Pollard, I mean, let's talk about him. 131 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he killed me in fantasy because I was playing Tony Pollard 2 leagues of fantasy, and he got 34 points in both leagues. I'm like, come on, man. I took the L in both leagues. CeeDee Lamb at 17 yards and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz 74 yards. So, yeah, I mean, the Bears, I mean, like I said, I think they're a year out from competing. I used to live in Chicago. I used to play for the Chicago Falcons, minor league team over there. So, and I went to lots of Bears games at Soldier Field. Got to see him play against the Patriots that year when the Patriots won the Super Bowl. They played them down to the wire. So, I mean, there's a lot to be excited for if you're a Bears fan. But I mean, I still think that they're still 1 year out, and they just traded Roquan Smith today to the Ravens. So, watch out for Baltimore. I forgot to mention that. Watch out for Baltimore because they just got better in the linebacking unit. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the Bears do down the stretch. Saints Raiders. I mean, the Saints are. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean,
Zero, bruh.
yeah,
Come on now.
that killed me fantasy too. I had Devontae Adams, Josh Jacob, and Darren Wall on my fantasy team. Come on, man, it's a solid 0 for each one of them. It's like, my gosh. I mean, and the Saints. I'm not sold on the Saints. I think the Saints can be beaten. I think they will be beaten by your Falcons at the end. I think it's going to come down to this. I mean, the Buccaneers are still in the mix, but I still think the Saints have a little bit more to compete with, maybe, maybe not. Because I mean, Taysom Hill, he can do a lot, but I think Marcus Mariota. I mean, I'm taking Marcus Mariota over Taysom Hill. That's just what I think Marcus Mariota is a better pocket passer and a better QB, all things considered, than as opposed to Taysom Hill, who's more of like a gadget QB. That's my opinion.
I mean,
So,
if we're going to talk about games that the Falcons should have won, that's another one, man.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the problem. Like the Falcons are the 49ers. They're very frustrating, right? The 49ers lost against the Broncos when they should have won that game. Jimmy G takes a safety. They basically spot them 2 points. I mean, the Niners didn't go for a field goal. They said like they actually no, they let the Broncos get a field goal before the half instead of trying to push them back for third down and then getting them out field goal range, right? So these little decisions, right? I mean, these are what changed the games, right? It changed the flow of the games, right? And I think ultimately that's what kind of screwed the Niners, it screwed the Falcons multiple times. That's how I've seen, against different teams. So, but the Falcons are definitely a team to be reckoned with. So I mean, that's just now looking at their first place in the NFC South. So even though they, like you said, they could have a little bit more breathing room, I think it's a good place to be in, in the midpoint of the season. So,
Absolutely.
and next up, Eagles, Steelers, 7-0 over the Steelers, the 2-6. I'm not gonna say much about the Steelers. Eagles, Jalen Hurts, 284 yards, 4 touchdowns. Miles Sanders, my fantasy team, he's my fantasy team. So Jalen Hurts, right? Nine carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously AJ Brown was phenomenal. So I mean, yeah, the Eagles. Back to your question. I mean, they're looking like the best team in the NFC right now. Some people are not sold on them because it's their strength of schedule and also because of Jalen Hurts. I'm sold on them for both of that. I believe that the strength of schedule doesn't really change or disprove anything. I think Jalen Hurts is a franchise QB in the NFL. A lot of people are saying that he was going to be a gadget QB, kind of like a Taysom Hill, but I was firm on the fact that I just thought he had the intangibles to become a pocket passer. Now you see, what happens, 3 years in with the Eagles staff committing to him. Maybe Trey Lance can do that at some point. I don't know. He's only been in the league for 2 years. He's only played 3 games in those 2 years. So, but I mean, Jalen Hurts is definitely, the prime example of what happens when with an organization believes in someone and they actually got put in the work. So kudos to him for putting the work to get to this point. More power to the Eagles and their fans.
Yeah, he's doing a phenomenal job.
Well, absolutely. No, it's just crazy. So let's go move right along. Pages over Jets. Zach Wilson threw 3 picks. Mac Jones, I think, is the first game back. Second game, second game back, 194 yards and touchdown and a pick. So kind of lackluster day for Mac. Obviously Zach, was didn't really do so well, obviously against Belichick's defense. Bob Saleh is still 5-3 as a Jets head coach. He obviously came from the Niners too. I mean, I still think Jets can definitely make a playoff push, at least get to maybe a 9 or 10 win season this year. They just have to continue winning. And Zach Wilson needs to obviously play better. So we'll see how he does down the stretch. Titans over Texans. Malik Willis had only 55 yards in a pick, but Derrick Henry with 32 carries for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6.8 yards per carry. That's a grown ass man, and part of
yeah,
but grown ass man. I mean, just running, just downhill. I mean, just eating people alive for breakfast. I mean, oh my god. I mean, and I just think that the Titans in the AFC South, that's why they're first place, because even if Tannehill's out, they still got Derrick Henry. 75 yards. He's now the Titans' all-time leading rusher and rushing touchdowns, more than Eddie George, more than Earl Campbell. I mean, think about that. Derrick Henry's been in the league for just 8 years?
Wow.
And he's already the Titans franchise leading rusher, in touchdowns? Come on, man.
Yeah.
King Henry. Next up, Seahawks over Giants, 27-13. Daniel Jones, 206 yards. Geno Smith, let's talk about Geno, man. 23-34, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Geno's having a bounce back year. The Seahawks are first place in the NFC West. Makes me angry, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah, they shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. I want the Giants to get them, but hey. So yeah, it was looking like a great team. A great young team. Geno Smith's my age, where he's 32. He's been in the league for 10 years, and it's phenomenal. You can see how he's come back and really grown into a deep ball passer. Greg Olsen said he was there with him, when he was commenting on the Niners-Rams game, and he said, Geno's was always had that ability, but he just never really was able to put it together. But now he's like, I'm so happy to see him put it together. So Seattle's a team to look out for, man. I mean, they're a really, really dangerous team. Yeah. And so that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Next up, Commanders Colts, Taylor Heineke, 17-16. Great way to win. 223-31, 270 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Receiving, Terry McLaurin, 113 yards. And he killed me in fantasy too. Matt Ryan looks like just a shell of himself. I don't know what's going on over there. Frank Reich, he's doing what he can, but Matt's just not. He's done. I mean, he needs to call it up.
It's basically just a continuation of the past, 3-4 years, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know better than me, right? I mean, just because, but it is what it is. I mean, they thought you're going to a new head coach, new system, but you forget that he's a 37-year-old quarterback. It's not like, you have Matt Ryan coming off of his 2016 MVP campaign, right? You have it's 6 years removed from that campaign. It's literally, a seasoned kind of weathered veteran who's not necessarily doesn't really have it anymore, right? So, like you said, more of the same of what we've seen last 3 or 4 years, but it is what it is. Moving right along, the Niners with the Rams, 31-14. Jimmy Garoppolo, 21-25, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 1 of 1, 34 yards and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 18 carries, 94 yards and a touchdown. Christian McCaffrey, 55 yards receiving, 6.9 yards and a receiving touchdown. The first Niners player in history to have a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a rushing touchdown in a game.
Wow.
Yeah, that
awesome.
Anyone questioning whether or not the Niners gave too much draft capital to get C-Mac really didn't know kind of what they could do. And you were talking to me about this when I was so angry about the Chiefs loss. Hey man, you guys got McCaffrey. You guys, and you obviously see more than me, right? In your division, right? So obviously, I was not aware of how good Christian. I knew how good he was, but I didn't realize he could be this good and this much of an impact playmaker just immediately. It's phenomenal. Just to see, how fast he's adapted to the playbook and just how much he's made it easier for Jimmy. How he's adapted in Kyle's kind of, his scheme. Obviously Kyle's an RPO scheme, and Christian McCaffrey is the perfect fit. It's almost like Ricky Watters back in '94 for anyone who watched the Niners back then. I was only 4 years old, but I still remember enough about, to watch the highlights on YouTube, and it's like, okay, yeah, coming off the backfield, kind of open up the play action game, it makes it a lot easier for any quarterback. And Jimmy, to his credit, he completed a 56-yard reception to Ross Dwelly. And that was a bomb. So Jimmy played good. If Jimmy can play like that, throughout the stretch, obviously Jalen Ramsey did have 2 almost interceptions, but if Jimmy can play with that type of poise down the stretch, the Niners are going to be difficult to beat.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you this right now. Oh, my God. Yeah. I'm really excited now. From the Rams, let me talk about the Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions, okay? their offensive line needs to get a complete remake, like a complete makeover. I don't know without Andrew Whitworth, without Von Miller, that whole team is a completely different. I don't know what team that is that we're watching now, right? But Matt
Not
Stafford's
the
been
same.
struggling.
It's not the same as last year, man.
It's not the same as last year. I mean, and honestly, the Falcons, another game you guys should have won. You should have beat the Rams. So, I mean, you almost had them. So, I mean, it is what it is, though. I mean, I think this time, the second half of the season is where the playoff teams are really decided, right? So, I'm liking kind of how the Niners are positioned right now. I'm liking how the Falcons are positioned right now. I think the second half season gets a lot easier for Niners. I'm not sure about the Falcons second half season. I'm thinking it gets easier. I'm not sure. I need to check. But it's definitely going to be good. Fortune favors the bold. I think Kyle Shanahan can take a lot more risks with Christian McCaffrey. And I think the Niners can definitely get back to the winning ways moving forward. Last game of yesterday was the Bills-Packers game. Bills beat the Packers 27-17. Aaron Rodgers, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns at the pick. Josh Allen, 218 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Jaire Alexander would play good. Him did going at it all night. I'm thinking. I mean, I like the Bills to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I'm thinking this is going to be the year that they do it. And I mean, I'm thinking the Packers are pretty much kind of like same situation as Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers is washed. He's dealing with a lot of young new weapons, and that's it. I mean, I don't see any way of him coming back from this season. I think he needs to call it. So
yeah, I mean, why not retire, man? I mean, he's had a great career. You know what I mean?
$200 million net worth. What more you need to play for?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you're not winning a Super Bowl with this team unless you come to the 49ers. You're not winning anywhere. I mean, so no. I mean, so he needs to call it up. Bengals Browns today. Yeah, I'm picking the Bengals to win today. And yeah, that's pretty much wraps it up for week 8. Yeah, and actually, let me pull up the Falcons schedule before we adjourn because I do want to see what your guys' schedule looks like for the second half.
Okay.
Because it's going to be important for me just to see if you guys. I think you guys are still playing some NFC West teams. Because so let's see. Oh, you guys play the Chargers next. So we play the Chargers. We on a bye week this week, but you guys play them Sunday. Then we play them. So we'll see how that goes.
That should be a win for the Falcons. I'm going for the Falcons.
No, absolutely. Falcons should win that game.
Yeah.
Then you guys play the Panthers. Come on, you guys are the Panthers. Bears, right? Falcons, right? Commanders. Oh my God, this is nice. Steelers. Oh my God, Saints. Okay, you got the Ravens and the Falcons, and then the Cardinals and the Buck. I can see the Falcons winning 11 or 12 games this year.
I can see that too.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see them going 11-6, 12-5, winning the NFC South. I can see the Niners doing the same thing, based on our strength schedule too. And then I guess then you guys would get the bye week because you beat us. So I mean, no, it's definitely they're the most unexpected surprise in the NFL of this year, the Falcons, because I mean Marcus Mariota coming to back him this week, come back here when he was in Las Vegas back in car, he was shipped out of Tennessee for Tannehill, right? I mean, it's really remarkable to see how the Falcons definitely have taken the ball and just literally figuratively ran with it.
Exactly. So, looking forward to some good games, man.
Yes, sir. And let's talk about my Lakers. We pivoted to NBA. Lakers finally got the first win of the season. Hopefully they can keep it going. Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, right? That the team looks good. We'll see if LeBron. I mean, LeBron's going to pass Kareem this year. I mean, I fully believe that as the NBA all-time league scorer. And hopefully then, I mean, if the Lakers can get some wins together, not saying that they can be a championship team, right? But they can definitely be a competitive team. And that's all we can hope for in Laker Nation right now. Because, if you ask me in the NBA right now, the Phoenix Suns are a very dangerous team in the West. And if you look at the East,
the Suns are no joke. Yeah,
Suns are no joke. And the Bucks, I mean, oh my God. I mean, they're it's crazy. The teams who made the finals 2 years ago or last year before the Warriors and the Celtics, they're literally the best teams in the league this year. So right. I mean, it's looking like, and obviously the Mavericks too, Luka Doncic. I mean, they're looking great. So I mean, we'll see how it all shapes out. But NBA is too early, so I think we can wrap it up on that note. I mean, NBA is looking great, but NFL is looking much better, for our Niners and Falcons. So appreciate you having me on, big dog. It was fun.
Man, it was awesome. Oh, but one more thing though about the NBA, the Hawks. Don't sleep on the Hawks.
Oh, I forgot about the Hawks. Yeah,
the Hawks look good, man.
Yeah, I forgot. Let me look at the record. 1 second.
Yeah, we in third place.
Yeah, 4-2. Yeah. Oh my God. third in the Eastern. No, fourth place in the East, behind the Celtics, but tie with Celtics for third. So
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
they're doing good so far.
Doing good. We'll see if they keep it going. Sure,
Yes, sir.
All right,
ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. We will be back next week to talk more about week 9.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Take care, man.
You too.
All right.